I would like to speak to you just briefly. Our schedule is, you know, is quite tight because we're going on from here to Anchorage for a meeting with the Emperor of Japan, the first time that an Emperor of Japan and the President of the United States have ever met. I would like to speak to you because coming to this part of the state, coming to this area that has contributed so much to the defense of the United States and can contribute so much to the peacetime growth of the United States, I particularly want to express appreciation for what the people of this area have done in the past and give you just an idea of what I think you can look forward to in the future. First, with regard to where we are now, I mentioned the visit with the Emperor of Japan. That indicates a totally new era in relations between these two countries. We all remember World War II. I see so many young people here, and I think of the fact that over half the people in the world were born after World War II, which is an indication of the fact that that war is over, and that now the people who were then enemies can and must be friends. And so Japan and the United States will be friends. We will never be enemies again. And then I'm sure that when I introduced Dr. Kissinger, you will remember that on July the 15th, I announced that he had been in Peking, and that as a result of his visit, that I would be paying a visit, the first President of the United States to visit mainland China. This meeting will take place at a later time. It is a meeting that has been widely speculated about, and I just say this word about what it means, particularly to the young people that are here, because it means really far more to you than it does to our generation. When we think of what the world's going to be like 15, 20 years from now, just think what it would be like if 800 million of the most capable, able people in the world were isolated from the rest of the world, living not knowing the rest of the world, outside of the world community, and living there with an enormous potential in military power, including nuclear power. It would be a terrible danger. And so I believe that it is essential that now we take the steps to open a dialogue. This isn't going to settle the differences, they are deep, but to open a dialogue that will discuss those differences so that now and 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, the people and government of the United States, the people and government of the People's Republic of China, while we will continue to have differences, we'll talk about them. We will not fight about them. This, we think, is important for the future generations. Now a word about this area. Everybody in the United States has heard of Hanford and what it means in terms of the nuclear power that it has created. Everybody knows that it is still important in terms of nuclear weaponry, which is essential as an instrument for keeping the peace in the world, as a deterrent to war, as a deterrent to those who might start war. But today, we must think not only in that respect, but we must think far beyond of what that nuclear power can do in terms of peace. And let me say something that I know will be understood here, but which too often is not understood in many parts of our country. Many people in this country, because nuclear power is so destructive, are afraid of it. What we have to understand is that when you have such enormous power, let's use it for peace. Let's find a way to use it. And that, of course, is the future as far as this area is concerned. Don't be afraid of it. Build it for peace. I live, as you know, in California, down in San Clemente. And right next to us, within about a couple of miles, is one of the new nuclear power plants. And many are afraid to live there because they fear what could happen with regard to that peaceful nuclear power plant. I'm not afraid to live there. I'm not afraid not because I know much about it, but because what I do know tells me that here we have a new source of energy, a source of energy that is absolutely important to the future of the world. I know the people of the state of Washington, perhaps as much as any people in this country, due to the fine leadership you've had in this state, are interested in the environment and preserving it. If you're going to have a clean and beautiful environment in this country, we have to have a new source of energy, plentiful and clean. And we can have that new source of energy. The place to get it, one of the major places to get it, certainly, is through the development of nuclear energy. That is why I made an announcement on June the 4th, one that didn't get, of course, the enormous publicity of the announcement of the journey to China, one that didn't get the publicity of my announcement of the new economic policy to deal with the problems of inflation and unemployment in this country, but one which, in terms of the future of the country, may be in long-range terms, even more important in some respects. And that is that the United States was going to go forward in building a breeder reactor. Now, don't ask me what a breeder reactor is. Ask Dr. Schlesinger, but don't tell him not to tell you, because unless you're one of those PhDs, you won't understand it either. But what I do know is this, that here we have the potentiality of a whole new breakthrough in the development of power for peace. And that means jobs for this area, but jobs and power for hundreds, for millions of people all over the world. At the time of that announcement, I was able to announce we were going to have one experimental plant to go forward. I want to tell you today, and I'm chosen this place and time to make the announcement for reasons you'll all understand, that because private industry has already contributed $200 million to the development of the first plant, that I have decided to authorize going forward on a second one. Now, we are not yet ready to drop the other shoe and to say where they're going to be, except this area that has so much talent in terms of brains, that has so much resources in terms of experience, has a role to play in the future in the development of our power. I'll just say that, and we hope that you will be able to play it. One final thought before we go in for the tour. I mentioned a moment ago how all of this business about breeder reactors and nuclear energy and the stuff is over my head. That was one of my poorest subjects, science, and I got through it, but I had to work too hard. I gave it up when I was about a sophomore. But I can assure you that it's always been fascinating to me, because it seems to me that if a people are to be a great people, we must always explore the unknown. We must never be afraid of it. That's why we have to go to space. That's why we should have built the SST. That is why, as far as this particular matter is concerned in the terms of nuclear power, we must not be afraid. We must explore it. We can't be sure what it's going to produce. But on the other hand, we know that by exploring the unknown, we're going to grow, we're going to progress, and progress in a way that will be good for all Americans and for other people in the world. There's a wonderful story about Benjamin Franklin that illustrates my point on that score. A balloon was sent aloft, the first time that Americans at that time had seen a balloon. And somebody asked Franklin, of what possible use is that thing? And his answer was, of what possible use is a newborn babe? And so that's what we have here. We have here the possibilities of new breakthroughs. The fact that you live in this area, and that whether you work here in this installation, whether you're associated with it, it seems to me this is one of the most exciting places to live, one of the most exciting times to be alive in the history of man, because you're opening the great vistas of the unknown. And as a result of exploring them and opening them, it's going to mean a better life for our people, and a better life, and we hope a peaceful life with peaceful production for all the people of the world. Thank you very much.